Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a comprehensive guide on Luard, the second of the deck sets that released this weekend. So just going to go through the deck and how it kind of differs without the promo. So English does not have the Doggo promo or Solongo, or whatever it's called. So the Doggo promo, we don't have it, and it is a huge impact to Luard. So let's discuss what are we going to use in replacement for that. If you guys need any coaching, my Metafy link is in the bottom right hand corner. Feel free to book a session and we can get started. If you guys haven't already, click that subscribe button for all notifications on this channel. So Luard is probably one of the biggest fan favorites at the moment, and we've seen a lot of success with this deck in Japan. So, you know, it translates and, you know, should correlate well into the English side. So this is using the Japanese deck log. At the time of this recording, the deck log for English has not updated. So we're gonna run just the traditional, the ride line from the Stride deck set. So essentially, draw one, get Luard Crest. The grade 2 Leofol, so when Luard rides this, Soul Blast 1, draw a card, and then Ritual 3 from the drop zone. If your grade 4 Luard is placed on the Vanguard circle, you can discard one and call this out. And then Luard itself, similar to how the old Luard was, so Ritual 3, you can bottom deck 2 normal units and stride for free. When you stride, essentially, you can Cardfight 1, retire a unit, call 2 grade 1s from deck to rearguard. So the deck itself, I think, is like pretty well structured. I think there used to be, I guess, differences in, I guess, how the deck was constructed. I know that in Malaysia there was a Stride deck set that, sorry, not the Stride deck set, the champion deck played by Eugene was actually pretty obscure. So that one was a little bit weird, but alas, you know, different build, different takes, and I guess a different approach. But this one, kind of very straightforward. So obviously running 3 Luard grade 3, you obviously want it for your Drag Strider, I think. Yeah, Drag Strider is the big combo card. Drag Driver is the first stride, right? Play 4 Morfessa. Morfessa is pretty much your attack extender, so you call this out using Drag Driver, attack, call another unit out, pretty much call it a day. Then you play 2 Maple. So I chose to run 2 Maple because against Shurunui, and if they board wipe you, you actually have no way of being able to recur stuff. And if you're 1 Maple, if you're playing only 1 Maple and it hits the damage zone, then you're gonna feel really bad. So Maple, pretty much when your unit is placed on the Vanguard circle or appears on the Vanguard circle, you essentially call it out from the drop zone to rearguard, essentially being a fodder for your Luards to essentially sack it and draw 2. Oh well, not draw 2, call 2. So yeah, that's that. You play Ezra's, the PG, because it's accessible from the Stride deck set, and it's pretty cool art, not gonna lie. It's probably one of the cooler arts of PGs out there. You play 4 Abyssal Owl, your Luard Finder, and also you can essentially bind a copy of this card and countercharge. Pretty good. Well, bind a pair, I guess. This grade 1, very, very strong ritual card. So it essentially, Ritual 3, it essentially becomes 10k. But more importantly, when it's placed on rearguard, you check the top 2 cards, you call out a card to your rearguard circle, and at the end of turn that card retires. It's really important that that card retires because against Shurunui you want to clear up your board. So you essentially, what you want to do is you play this in front, and then the card that you call to like a back row circle, and then essentially overplace this particular card to free up that slot. But to be honest, the purpose of it is more so just to fill out your board, because when this is called off Luard, it procs as well, so you essentially get nearly a full board. This Ritual 3 gains intercept and 5k shield, very, very strong. Even if it's placed in the front row, the crest itself will just naturally, you know, inflate the power of this card. We should probably talk about the crest before we move on, because the crest, I think, is actually, yeah, pretty good. So you can perform Stride and cannot ride any grade 3 or greater cards without Luard in its name. Pretty self-explanatory. 13k base for Luards. And then the continuous, during your turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Luard, all your front row gains +5 for each face-up card in G-Zone, pretty much like every other Stride deck set. But the last part is actually very, very important. So at the end of turn, if you performed Stride without paying the cost this turn, i.e. using Luard's skill, choose up to 1 critical from drop and put it to bottom of deck. So the really good thing about this card is that you're essentially free striding, which essentially is +1 against any other deck in the format, right? Also, you're deck thinning your grade 1s, obviously off the back of, you know, other stuff like your grade 1, Luard. You're essentially getting free cards, Morfessa, your drag drivers, like it's just so good, right? So essentially your deck actually compresses, and then you get to a point where you can actually damage choke with your drag strider, and pretty much you gain 10k 1 crit, you're essentially quad drive, and enhanced crit rate, and guard restrict. So guard restrict, your opponent has to either eat from 3 to 5 and risk getting a crit, and then the more compressed your deck is, the more threatening this card becomes, right? So yeah, more on that a little bit later. So we play one of this grade 1, Luminosity Angel? Luminosity Wizard. So essentially GB1 Ritual 3, 3. So if you guys don't know, Ritual is the amount of grade 1s in your drop zone. So Ritual 3, when it's placed on rearguard this turn, this unit gains +10, 18k attacker, 18k booster. If it's in the front row, it's pretty good, right? And the second skill is when it's retired from rearguard, if you have a Luard crest, you may soul charge one, choose one of your Vanguards, gains +5. This is actually very important because it's a ritual card. And what that means is that it's callable from Morfessa. And if it's callable from Morfessa, then that means that, you know, you're not just calling some weak 13k. So later on, when Morfessa calls the Luminosity Angel or Luminosity Wizard, it essentially becomes a really, really big beat stick. I don't think I've explained Morfessa yet, so let's go back to Morfessa. So continuous from drop zone, this card gains -1 grade, which essentially counts as a grade 1 in the drop zone. Ritual 3, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if you have the Luard crest, until end of turn gains +5. If your G zone is 2 or more face up, you can cast 1 search your deck for 1 ritual card and call it out to rearguard. Note that it is ritual card, so you can call your Luards, you can call you know, let's just say if you run the grade 3 ritual +10, you can call that as well. It is just a ritual card, so you can call a ritual card of any grade. Very, very important, because this is the only card in the deck that is not grade specific when it calls. Well, obviously other than, you know, this grade 1. But yeah, so we also run 2 copies of this grade 1. So TLDR is when your opponent attacks, if it's the 5th battle or more, you can bind this unit and nullify that attack. This is actually very useful because against Shurunui attacks for 7 times, so 2 dominates because those units count as theirs. So essentially, you know, in a traditional Shurunui situation, it's like rearguard, rearguard, Vanguard, rearguard, rearguard, on, you know, without the dominated attacks. And so essentially you're pretty much guarding, you know, like restanding Aspiradias, restanding Seikeis, restanding Furais. This card is actually very, very good. Now, what if they target this? Then sure, don't worry, right? Like, they target it, cool, it doesn't really matter. It's like, what, 10k, 10 + 5 is like, what, 15? 15 is an intercept. If they guard this, that means, I mean, if they dominate this, they're not dominating any of your like grade 2s, so you can just like intercept with them, right? It also means that they're not dominating this, which means that this can intercept, which is a 10k shield. So you know, all in all, like the benefits of them dominating this particular grade 1 actually helps you because you have cards to be able to intercept, right? And it's really important because this grade 1 is 10k shield, which means that even if they dominate something that is 8k, 8 + 4 + 5 is 17. 17 means that it's a 10k shield. Whereas something like this, if they dominate this, it's a 5k shield, which means that you can leave your Morfessa's intercept with it, and then you still have, you know, this as a 10k shield, which is actually very, very strong, right? And the thing is that to get rid of this card, they need to dominate it on the Magu Tenbu. So that means that, you know, they're wasting what? Magu Tenbu's like skill to try to get rid of this, be my guest, right? That means that they're not dominating this grade 1, you know, 10k shield, pretty good, right? We also run 2 of the cat. The cat is, I guess, interchangeable, but I think, you know, 20k shield is always good. Sometimes you actually use the top core if you really need to, but, you know, 20k shield is always good. You can target 0, 1, 2, and actually your Luard, because if you're thinning your main deck Luards, then you're essentially wanting to get the main deck Luards back to hand using Abyssal Owl, and then returning the Ride Line 1 back to deck. Sure, it's a little bit inefficient in the early parts of the game, but you know, those are the things that you kind of give up for, right? Then, the essential replacement, or not really replacement, but the counterpart to the Doggo promo, which is Painkiller Angel. So if you think about the Doggo promo, what it does is that essentially, if you have more Regards than your opponent, or if you play an order this turn, you sack it. Well, it gains 5k when it boosts, and then you sack it, top 2, add 1 to hand, 1 to bottom deck, right? The card does the same. The only difference with this card is that it doesn't gain +5, which actually is pretty impactful in the grade 2 game and in the early parts of the game, because it means that your numbers don't hit over defensives, which may or may not be a problem, right? And I mean, if for some reason, you know, you have this and you have Ritual 3, then this behind like a Morfessa, this behind itself, this behind a Maple, pretty good, right? 20k. So that is the main deck. So we run 4 heals. I purposely put in the generic heal. This is more so for beginners. So anyone who's getting the Stride deck straight out from the deck set, it includes this heal, and this heal looks nice, right? But in a competitive scene, if you want to swap this heal, I would recommend swapping to the Restand heal or the Grade heal, depending on how heavy the meta will be with Grade 4 decks. Shiranui, I think, in the Springfest meta will be very dominant, so you're better off actually running Restand heals against that, because it's a 25k shield which you can guard like a Furai or a Seikei on the second swing. So I think Restand heals are much better, and then scaling forward when you're versing, you know, Varga, anything that restands, then, you know, the Restand heal is very good. So, you know, in the long term, just get the Restand heal, you're doing pretty good, right? Then we have the blue OT. So we played the blue OT here because we're able to get back certain cards like Luard to be able to, you know, go into your Drag Strider, your PGs, anything that essentially requires you to essentially extend, right? Your Morfessas as well. Those are like the 3 primary targets. It's always good to grab, you know, a trigger or whatever, but all in all, blue OT is just good, because if you're using Keto OT, you're going to deck out to the moon. Like, it is actually crazy. We play 3 draws to just kind of thin through the deck, get your pieces where you need to. 8 crits because you maximize off the crits because of your crest. Being able to just return crits is pretty nuts. And then 1 Sanctitude, that's that. So looking at the 2 strides, so we have, this is Drag Driver, if I'm not mistaken. So Ritual 3, when this unit attacks, you can cast 1 G-Flip 1, search your deck for 1 Ritual card, call it out to rearguard, shuffle your deck. So this card can essentially call anything that has Ritual, again, not grade restricted. So similar to Morfessa, actually it's pretty much Morfessa in a card, right? So that's that. Your priorities for flipping G-Zone here would actually be to flip himself. But sometimes if you find that you're not getting to your Luards quicker, then you may want to flip your Striders. But ultimately what you could do is, like, you can flip this, hit the Strider first, hit this, if you need to stride into this, flip this again, and then you go Strider, Strider, and then the last one, right? Or vice versa, right? So that's that. And then your Drag Strider, so essentially you can't stride this if you don't discard a Luard for stride. Well, that's wrong, because Luard can perform stride because of its auto skill. The Vanguard skill is auto Ritual 7, i.e. 7 grade 1s in the drop zone. So when this unit attacks, if you have 5 or more Ritual units on the board, which is inclusive of him, So you essentially need 4 more. So the last one you can keep the PG girl, the PG grade 1 behind the Vanguard, which is pretty cool. This unit gains 10k 1 crit. Then you can retire 2 rear guards and discard 1 grade 3 Luard. And essentially this gains 1 drive and your opponent cannot guard with grade 1s or greater from hand to guardian circle. Note that Sanctitude does get by this, but you know, if you're using Sanctitude, you can only use it once, right? So talking about this card, how this can kind of damage choke later in the game. So you essentially just compress your deck so that your deck has a lot of crits, and because you're thinning out all your grade 1s because of your superior calling and your searching, then your deck actually becomes very low and you have 4 checks that essentially hit a crit, right? So if you sit your opponent at 3, your opponent uses all 3 CB and have no way of countercharging, then that's pretty much over. The longer the game goes, it's over, right? So pretty much you stride into this, you attack Vanguard, you sack 2, ditch your Luard, and then your opponent essentially has to guard. And to be honest, the best way to bypass this card is take the first time that this happens, right? The likelihood of them hitting a crit is least likely the first time this comes around rather than towards the end, because the longer that this stride is in play, the more compressed your opponent's deck will be, right? So take that as a tip if you like, and that might just win you your Springfest, right? So that is pretty much the main deck. So if you guys are interested, the deck log, this is using the Japan deck log, which is 7N61C. I'll link it in the description below. What we're going to do now is we're going to just jump through to CFA just for a simulation on Luard itself, kind of what to mulligan, but nothing too super crazy, just gonna like inflate a bunch of damage and just kind of walk through how things go. Right, so we're just going to shuffle, draw 5, OT definitely goes back, crit goes back. You kind of want to keep the painkiller in the early game, just to be able to, you know, sack it and draw, which is pretty good. So let's just draw 2. Maple's good in this particular scenario because essentially that means that you are forever protected even if your board gets wiped, right? Let's just say, you know, we go first, draw 1. 2 Luards here is not that great, so you can ditch your Luard and find it later with your Abyssal Owl. So let's ride this, get a crest, cool. Draw 1. Now that we have the energy generated, there's a lot of crest going on. Pass turn, let's just say your opponent gives you 1. Stand and draw. So here, you're actually pretty good because your opponent is 8k, right? So you actually want to ditch something that is like, I don't know, maybe let's ditch the Luminosity Wizard. So that gives us 1 in the bin, right? It'll give us another one once we ride grade 3 over the Leofol because we're soul blasting the grade 1 from your ride line. So we'll ditch that, ride this, cool. The Maple can go here, which is good. And then the Painkiller. This is a really good formation because what happens is you attack with Vanguard first. If you get a crit, you just dump on the rear guard. Well, you know, you're not like me, alright? I suck at triggering crits in the early game. And then there's 18, and then the best thing is, you know, you can just soul blast 1, sack this, draw 1. So now we already have 3 in the bin, right? Which fulfills Luard's ability to be able to recycle stuff. And the good thing is that, you know, because we're going first, Luard's skill is active the moment it comes around to our stride, right? Let's just say you're putting 2 lines, you 5k shield into 7, take 1. See, so like if you only play 1 Maple, I think 1 Maple, if that hits the damage, then you're prone to like full board retire decks, and Shunui can do that. So stand and draw. I guess we can like, I guess we can front row the Luard here, I think, which is okay. So let's ditch the Abyssal Owl, ride this, and then Leofol Soul Blast draw 1. Guess you can front row this. I guess we can also ditch the Abyssal Owl for Luard, but I feel that's very... I guess it deck thins 1, right? So we've seen 2. We'll find the last one. So let's find the last one. Cool. 10 and 11 is like not really that great, but 11, sure. Well, it's 13. Check 2, heals pretty good. You want to heal your grade 1s. Try to prioritize them, because healing grade 1s means that, you know, More ritual in the bin. This is 23. Call it a day. Let's just say, like, you know, your opponent like gives you a bunch of damage, whatever. Cool. Let's just say, you know, we're pretty hungry today. We're gonna eat some, and let's just say, you know, we guarded some here, right? Stand and draw. Cool. So because it's the start of our turn, we can activate Luard's ability. So we return 2 normal units. Because the carbuncle or the cat was placed in the damage zone, it's actually pretty beneficial to kind of return this. We have a lot of the other grade 1s already, but I guess we can also return the Luminosity Wizard as well. So let's return those 2 to bottom deck, and then we can stride for free, right? So then we're going to stride into this boy, Drag Driver. Maple then calls itself out. But here, I think, because we have access to the Luard, let's just sack the Luard. Whenever you're counterblasting, always counterblast grade 1s first. So you sack this, call 2. So let's call... Where's that grade 1? Yeah, this thing. Grade 1, grade 1. Cool. So we essentially create a full board from this. So the first one checks top 2. This is not that great. I guess you can choose up to, so let's not call them. And then the second one, that's not it. All right, check top 2. This is pretty good. So we can call like the null, and then the last one, I guess we can call like Morfessa. Morfessa then can call the Luminosity Wizard, right? So let's call that there. Because Luard will give the Luminosity +5, so it becomes 23, which is pretty good, right? So let's say 18 to Vanguard, skill combust 1, so we'll counterblast the grade 1, search your deck for a grade 1. I guess we can call, yeah, we can call the grade 1, yeah. But then I guess the problem here is that if you call the grade 1, then you don't get the intercept. So maybe what you do is like you call this. Sure, you know, Soul Blasting 1 to grab a card is like pretty good. So check 1, check 2, heal. Nice, heal's pretty good. Let's heal this one, check 3. And then this gains +5. CB1, search my deck for a grade 1. So here, if we need an intercept, so let's just call this, it essentially gains intercept and 5k shield. Shuffle our deck, and then this, after battle, so +1, sack this, draw 1. End of turn, this retires, unfortunately, so it wasn't very beneficial. And then call it a turn, right? So at the end of turn, the Luard Crest activates because we performed it. So optimally, we should probably have guarded with the crit instead, because then the crit can go back, right? So the crit goes back to bottom deck, call it a turn. Let's just say, you know, you take 1 damage, guard a bunch here. Let's just say, you know, we use up both of our PGs. And then let's just say we use the carbuncle. The carbuncle then returns Leafall and the grade 0. It's pretty important that you want to prioritize the grade 1 prior to that. And then, you know, if for some odd reason, you know, you have to re-ride the Luard to Soul Blast the Luard, sometimes that may be the case just because you don't have the soul to activate certain abilities. Then, you know, it's pretty good, right? That's that. Let's just say we intercept both of these. Cool. Alright, stand and drop. Now Luard skill again, so we bottom deck 2. So we do have another copy of that, so we can, I guess, call that. So I guess what we should do, we still have 1 carbuncle, but I think 1 carbuncle is, I guess we can return the PG. PGs are always good, so let's return the PG and the Preservation Angel. Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of them, so let's just bottom deck these 2, and then we get to stride, right? So let's stride into Drag Strider. Skill is then Maple. Maple calls out. On stride skill, combust 1, sack this, because we want to keep our board 5 ritual, right? So first is here. I guess second, if we, I I guess we could have returned this particular grade 1, right? But then again, I guess we do have another copy of that. So it's actually okay to call... yeah, we can call this, right? It stays on the board this time. So this, and then check top 2. Kind of don't want to call any of those. And then let's just call this, right? Okay, so now we have 5. We do have a Luard in hand, which is good. If you don't, then you just ditch the Abyssal Owl and then find it. So this essentially gains what? Plus... Oh, we didn't flip one for the previous thing. So this gains, front row gains plus 10. These gain plus 2. And then now we're ready. Right, so this is 28, 28, and then skill. 42, let's just sack the back 2. Ditch 1, and then you're not flipping 1, right? So it gains 10k 1 crit, and a plus drive, and your opponent can't guard. So, well, can't guard grade 1s or greater. So you're checking 4, so check 1, draw, you know, draw in, second check, third check, fourth check, right? So then it gets to the end phase. You have 2 intercept in the front row, which is insane. You have a PG at the back. You're essentially returning a crit. Do we even have a crit in here? I don't think we do. Wow, we actually haven't seen any crits, which is actually pretty crazy. So usually you return a crit, and then yeah, your deck essentially gets compressed, right? Technically, you could use the Abyssal Owl here if you wanted to. So, you know, at the end of turn, I guess you can bind 2 copies. Let's just say we bind 2 copies. We do have enough grade 1s in there, by the way. So we'll just countercharge 1. We don't really want to countercharge any of the grade 1s because we essentially want to heal it out, right? And then, yeah, that is pretty much that. So that is kind of how you simulate normally how Luard kind of plays. So beginners, this is a great guide for, you know, just easing you into the game and essentially how to simulate Luard. So I guess just jumping back to the deck list, and that is pretty much it for this comprehensive guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, click a like, comment down below what you guys think of the Luard Stride deck set. Have you guys picked it up from your local game store yet? If you haven't, make sure you hit them up. Go grab it right now. I got my Shiranui one. I'm gonna be, you know, playing around with that. If you guys haven't already, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.